All right, so one last live stream for this evening. Sorry about the kind of jumpiness, but I would get motivated on things and I just kind of start tearing through it. The finally got those screws loose, and I was going to show you guys. What's interesting is that it looks like I've got a lot of work ahead of me to do, but I really don't because this all comes out as one piece. I mean, that's essentially right there the Phantom 4. If you can imagine, there's really not much more to it. I mean, that's your battery component or your battery compartment. Your vision sensors are all around the side of this thing. I mean, it's all encased in this one little unit. So if you break this, your Phantom's completely hosed. So that's the brains came out. And so what I'm going to do next is I told you guys that the top piece, the GPS board, is underneath this, and it's got this shielding on it. And so essentially what you end up having to do is move that into the other frame. And what's nice about it is that there's these little slots right here that if you look at where the fabric is, they've got little holes to help you do the alignment. And this connector here is the only thing that goes from the GPS to the brains. And I will tell you that the little connection that it makes right here is a wickedly devious little thing to try to get loose. If you are not careful, it is extremely easy to tear apart that plug. It doesn't want to come loose. It's not user friendly in any way, shape, or form. And so I highly recommend that if you work on that you take that part very, very slowly, and don't rush through it. So we're going to find ourselves a nice small Phillips head, and we're going to take the shielding, which is essentially just sticky stuff holding it in place. You're going to take that off. But what you want to do is you want to try to keep it as close to the original form. Don't bend it or mat it up or anything, because if you do that, it just makes it more difficult to put it back in place. Let's see, this wire for the GPS is going to snake through here. So I'm going to finish peeling this off, and I'm going to set it straight up and down so that the sticky side is up. Essentially, that just leaves me something very simple, which is 3 screws to remove, which it helps to have the right Phillips head. Stand. I go and get this really, really cool tool set that has all of these wonderful tools in it. And it seems like every single time that I go to grab one of the tools or one of the bits, it's always just a one size too small, too big. But I mean, it's magnetic, so it makes this work a little bit easier. I don't know if you guys have ever had the fun of chasing a screw across the floor, but that gets really annoying. So we'll take these 3 screws out, which they're going to go straight into this other frame. And once I'm done with this is the last time that I will have to do anything with the original body for this drone. All of the effort of work at this point will be solely on the new drone. So that's it. The old body is done. We don't need it anymore. And all of our focus can be put back onto this little fella here. So essentially what we're going to do is get my one errant screw. So you can see that you've got the piece there. This aligns just like so and fits in place. So all I'm going to do now is put the screws into the new frame, which again, the magnetic side of this makes this a lot easier, because these threads have never been used. The first time you put these in, you need to be a little cautious, and make sure that you don't strip it, because that is easy to do. I've seen videos where people use like power drills, and they've gone and stripped these screws and made a mess of it. So all we're going to do next is get these last 3 screws in here, which I can tell you is horribly exciting to watch. Which this is probably one of the reasons why I don't make videos where I'm doing live builds. I'm not really personable enough to do this. Though I have had fun today looking at the drone news. There are some really, really good stories out there, guys. So make sure you chime into the show this Thursday, because I definitely have some good stuff for you guys this week. And this last screw doesn't actually have a hole. It's more like a guide. So this one is sort of like the locking mechanism that keeps everything else stable. All right, so the last thing you want to do is just make sure that you've gotten it tightened, that it's not going to move around, because obviously that's the GPS and we don't want any errant movement from that. It can just cause more trouble. I have my alignment correct because this is the front of the drone and that's where that plug is, which means the next part is putting this funky tag back on, which we have kept the form. We put the plug back through the hole in the top. We align it with those notches first. Make sure that they're poking through the slots like so. And then all it is just pushing this down, getting a very, very tight seal to the top, because this is this is part of the shielding for the GPS, and get that nice and firm in there like so that it's nice and stable. And then the next part is horribly complicated. You take the brains, so to speak, and you align it with these 4 posts like so, and you get that nice little click. And aside from me going back and making sure that that GPS plug gets snapped in there, that's pretty much where I was before. So next is soldering the motor back on, which I'm not going to do this evening. I really, when it comes to soldering, I need to be motivated for it. I'm not. So I'm not going to worry about putting those back on. I am going to desolder the broken wires for that other motor. I should probably just take this back out and desolder those wires with it out of the frame. Make it a little bit easier and less cumbersome. So one thing I highly recommend is, if you do this yourself and you are working on these, remember these are PCB boards. They are subject to electrostatic discharge, so make sure that you have the ability to discharge any electricity that is in your body from static charge on the carpet or anything like that. If you have something metal that you can touch, before you handle the drone, I highly recommend it, because just small errant shock can damage these components. So always be safe, always be careful, and never say never. This stuff is not that hard to do if you put your mind to it. I mean, it's the whole drone in one little box. So pretty cool. Brains. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this evening. No more snappy live streams, I promise. And have a good time.